Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with author and business development expert David Buck. He is the author of The Time Optimized Life. He has 35 plus years of organizational and time management experience. That led him to the Kairos Management Solutions and the Infinity Lifestyle Design Program. He empowers business professionals to overcome the struggles of a lack of flexibility in their lives. He helps his clients craft a strategy to optimize their time that defines a lifestyle focused on meaning, purpose, and joy. He resides in Florida with his wife, the Reverend Dr. Susan Rose. He's got a great story. Enjoy.
Hi, Dave. It's Joe Dimino. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. Happy almost New Year to you.
Yes, same to you. It's great to meet you. Where are you coming out of?
I am in Jacksonville, Florida. So I saw yours is the 816 Kansas City area code. I know that well since I used to work for Hallmark Cards, and so you're probably a lot colder than I am right now. Yeah,
we are quite a bit more. It's kind of been a weird Indian summer kind of winter, but now, yeah, the cold is settled in, and but yeah, Jacksonville is a great place. So yeah, we can peel back the layers of your Kansas City time, but I want to begin our conversation with surviving the last 3.5 years and getting through a pandemic. How did you do, and how did it change you?
So it helped clarify my thoughts that I didn't want to do corporate life anymore. And actually, it pushed me to think differently and to start my own business. And so I went through that journey while we were all changing our lives and trying to figure out what the new normal is. I decided to throw in starting my own business there.
So with that being said, there's a lot of things on paper that are a part of who you are. You're an author, a business development expert, but if we wanted to get to the brass tacks, if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day and one of the kids curiously asks you, what do you do for a living? How would you answer that child?
I help people take the time that they have in their life and manage it better, so that it feels like they have more time to use.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
I wanted to be an astronaut.
Okay, so let's talk about where you're at today and how we evolved to this point. Talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised and where these seeds came into you to help others, to help them grow and to write. How did all this happen?
So I was born in the suburbs of Chicago. So I grew up until I moved to Florida when I was 15. My parents relocated down here. And I started out wanting to be a computer engineer and found after 2 years of school taking physics classes and all that stuff that the science aspect wasn't all that fun for me. And so I switched and I came out with an economics degree and then started a sales career. And I found when I was in sales, I wasn't going to win the sale out of the sheer force of my charisma or my ability through how good looking I was to influence people. So I learned that what defined my success was my ability to be prepared, and to how I used my time became an advantage for me. And that went on for about 35 plus years until I was thinking, as COVID hit, what do I want to do with the rest of my life, so to speak? And my wife was bugging me about, well, you really are anal about how you use your time. And so I crafted that into a business strategy that where I now help people, quote, in career, be more productive and manage their time for both individuals and teams. And then I also have an element now on my own personal journey about what life is going to be like after career or in retirement. And so I do a post-career time management plan as well to help people getting close to retirement figure out how they're going to use their time. And all that got wrapped up into the fact that I took all of that through what I've done in my life and wrote The Time Optimized Life as kind of a culmination on how I've managed my time and how I think I can help other people.
Wow, that's wonderful. So talk to me a little bit about the Kansas City years. You know, Hallmark is quite a behemoth. How did that happen, and what was that experience like?
So I was working in retail management, and I have so much respect for people who work in retail. And I actually had vendors who would call on me when I worked in department store management, and I got to really be interested in, quote, being on the other side of the table, selling versus receiving. And I actually had a gentleman who knew someone in Hallmark cards, and I actually, through him, officially started my sales career with Hallmark cards itself. And I was not in Kansas City per se. I've been in field sales. I've been a remote worker much longer than before it was even considered cool. And so I spent a lot of my time going back into Kansas City, and I really credit Hallmark for really giving me a solid foundation. I got exposed to a lot of different things when I was there. Even though I don't work for them and haven't worked for them for a while, I'm still a fan of how they treated their employees and the business processes and how they trained us.
Anybody that had an inkling of creativity, that was the dream job. Anybody in this region would always look at Hallmark as that place. I've only heard good things about the way they treat people, the opportunities. So that just backs up what I've heard about them. So
good.
It's interesting, for sure. So who's been a hero for you in your life? You know, you've obviously been very inspired to be who you are, highly driven. Who's been that hero for you?
So I'll look back, so to speak. My kids, in some respects, have been my lifestyle heroes for me. I've got a 27 and a 24-year-old, and they have lived their lives totally different in their 20s than I did. And they actually inspired me to seek more personal flexibility in my life, not to be so beholden to a career. For example, my youngest has, at 22, hiked the Appalachian Trail. And so they've been my inspiration that way. And then looking generationally, my parents were also my inspiration. They were some of the hardest working people I ever knew, but they really expressed and showed joy in their work, and they helped pave a way for me to understand that work can be hard, but it can also be joyful at the same time.
You know, it's interesting. You just kind of spurned a memory in me. I remember I lost my father in 2008. I remember I was the first one that went to the hospital. He had been going through a battery of health problems, and there was a male nurse there, and he was from Africa. And he just kind of said, "Are you Joey?" And that was my name growing up. And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Your dad tonight was talking about the trips that I took to Italy. He never really got to travel that much. And in my 20s, I went gung-ho. I went to Europe and traveled all over the place." And I just think, you know, I knew he loved that, but just the fact that that was one of the last things that he had talked about was quite cool. And it's proof of what you're saying, how much that, you know, we're supposed to, as parents, supposed to be so influential, but the children are also very influential on the way that we view and live our lives as well.
Totally agree with that. What a great memory, too, of your father. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I hadn't thought about that in a while until you said that, but yeah, that was kind of the thing that I did in my 20s. I really went out of my way and did quite a few things as well. So let me ask you this. Speaking of inspirations, if you could meet anybody on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Probably a lot of people would say this, but I would love to meet Elon Musk. And the reason why is he's featured in my book. I did a review of him. Elon is an extremely energy-filled guy who I think has some wonderful time management and lifestyle management attributes, but I also think he has some things that we shouldn't emulate. But I would love to sit down with him and explore with him how he's been able to use his time to be as successful as he has.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because Elon is top on the list. I think the two things that stick out to me, there's a lot of things that I think are admirable about him, but I also, question certain things like the amount of kids with the amount of, what would you call them? The amount of mothers. And
yes,
the fact that he's taken something that was so enjoyable like Twitter and turned it into something that it wasn't intended to be, that to me is one of the more worrisome things that I have about him. But I did over the when the pandemic was really raging, everybody was outside in our area in Kansas City doing bonfires and all of that, like in May. And we were still unsure what was going on, how long this thing was going to last, the true nature of a global pandemic that none of us lived through. And all of a sudden I see these lights in the sky, like a big, huge arc of light come over in dots. And I'm thinking, oh, we're seeing it. The world's in a weird place. I'm finally getting the chance to see a UFO. And it was SpaceX, and it was mind-blowing. It, really was a cascade of, lights that lit up and went over us and moved in such a way that would just really torque your brain. And then it all went on the horizon, and each dot just disappeared. So I witnessed the magic in person of something that Elon Musk created, and it blew me away.
Well, we live about 2 hours plus from Cape Canaveral, the Kennedy Space Center, and I used to live in a town called Rockledge, Florida, which was right near the Kennedy Space Center. So we still get to see, if we're notified in enough time, I can go stand in my front yard and see the rockets. And just that part to me is always fascinating. You get to see them arc over your head as they head out into space. It's pretty cool.
Man, if you can't be an astronaut, you might as well live next to where it's happening so you can kind of soak it in by osmosis.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, man. So what's the best advice you've ever gotten in life?
To be patient, and to which I have to continue to heed that advice. I have always, and we are challenged today as individuals for instant gratification. Social media tries to teach us that, this idea that I can get what I want quickly. And to me, whenever I had that inkling and someone came alongside to me and say, just sit back, be patient, work the plan, understand it may take longer, that has been fruitful for me and helped me not give up when I've wanted to give up, and held firm. And usually when I've done that smartly, I've been able to achieve that ultimate goal that I wanted to set out to do.
So of all the professional accomplishments and evolution you've been through, what are you the proudest of? What's one of the best responses, fan letters, accomplishments that you've had in your life?
If I may give two, one related directly to the business aspect to me, and it's a general accomplishment, is when I had a client tell me that they trusted me. That to me was like the pinnacle of a salesperson's view, is to be able to say that you had someone across the table from you who trusted you. Those to me were words of gold. Then the second thing is really this idea. I had this bucket list item of writing a book, and I was really pleasantly shocked at how well that process went for me. I got it done written sooner than I had anticipated, and the process since then has just been one I look back very fondly and enjoyed a lot.
So, Dave, if you had a dream tonight, and the 20-year-old version of you appeared, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
I always like these kind of questions because I would always tell my younger self two things. First, stop and enjoy the experience when you have the win. So when you've done something that you've accomplished, enjoy it, reflect on it, and see what you can learn from it. And then the second thing goes on the flip side of that coin is, don't be afraid about the mistakes. understand those mistakes and also learn from those mistakes and reflect on them. Don't just try to push it out of your mind, of which I like to do is like, okay, I made that mistake. Now let's try to find the next success, but actually sit back and understand why that mistake happened and what you can learn from it.
So since you've exited corporate America, is there anything about it that you miss?
I do. I miss the collaboration, what I call ad hoc water cooler conversations or hallway conversations when you're particularly in a corporate environment and you walk by and you strike up a conversation with somebody and this amazing idea comes out of it. I do miss that, but not enough to want to go back.
I will tell you this. I am a recovering corporate guy. I was in my 20s and got out and went the whole opposite way, worked for the United Way and the YMCA and went in the nonprofit realm. And I got to tell you, I, to this day, have not watched The Office. I don't find it funny. I just have never gotten involved with it. Like, I'm out. Like, after I got out of that environment, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore.
And I find that for most people I talk to like us who take that entrepreneurial step, usually try to find a way to stay out before they have to go back. Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. You sound like a pretty adventurous sort. Let's say a time machine pulls up in front of your house when we get off the phone, and you can go back in time and see any event in human history. What event would you love to see with your own eyes? I would love to be at the tomb of the resurrection when Christ is resurrected. To me, that would, because for me as a Christian, that's the pinnacle of my faith. And that would be something to me that would be absolutely amazing to be able to witness.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am someone who is extremely detailed. It's important to me to know and try to anticipate and be proactive about what's coming and try to understand scenarios in which I can be successful at what I'm trying to do and adapt to that. But I also recognize that I can get stuck in analysis paralysis. I love data and I love to review data and I love to analyze data, but sometimes I can use that as a crux to not move forward. So I have to be very mindful that says, if I'm not doing what I need to do, just get out there and start producing and figure it out as you go along.
So Dave, if anyone wants to reach out, learn more about you, hire you, anything about your world, what's the best way to do it? And to pick up your book as well.
Thank you. My book is available at basically any of the major retailers where you can get books. So just feel free to do a search and you can find them at a variety of different places. If you'd like, you can visit infinitylifestyledesign.com. That's one word. And you can take a look at my services where I'm happy to help people try to figure out how to be more productive while they're in their career or businesses and companies. And then I also love to work with individuals and couples who see retirement on the horizon and have this amazing opportunity to try to figure out what they're going to do with this additional free time that they're going to have in their lives. So love to be able to help that way.
Dave, I'm glad we connected. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your passion, for your time. Best of luck. Have a great 2024.
You too, Joe. Thank you for what you're doing as well. I love the stories that you get to draw out of people, and it's been an enjoyable time for me because, at least for me, the time flew by, and so that usually means I enjoyed it.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.